Good morning, Nigeria, and happy Father's Day. But do you know that Nigeria is not short of problems? No. What it keeps running short of is confidence that those problems can actually be solved. And that's the thread running through so much of what we are seeing today. Now, across parts of the country, yesterday, elections and off-cycle elections took place. Elections at their core are moments when citizens choose their leaders, demand accountability, and signal the kind of future they want for themselves and their communities. But beyond the campaigns, the promises, and the results, there's a deeper question. Do people still believe that their votes matter? This morning, the numbers may tell us a quieter story. And with 2027 on the horizon, the challenge is no longer just how to conduct elections. It is how to restore public confidence in the process and convince citizens that their voices can still shape the future. Because democracy does not thrive on ballots alone, it thrives on belief. The subconscious Nigeria. Now, across Lagos, a different kind of story is playing out at bus stops. These are structures built for transit, for the 10 minutes you spend waiting before your next move. Or for a growing number of people, they've become somewhere they spend the night. Quite sad. That should stop us at our tracks, because beyond that image is a cascade of failures. Housing costs that have outpaced ordinary incomes, unemployment that has no safety net beneath it, mental health that needs to go, that goes largely unaddressed, and a widening gap between those who have somewhere to go and those who don't. Now, homelessness is not a statistic, no. It is a human story, one that most of us walk past every single day. And of course, there's Festac Town, once a deliberate symbol of urban vision of what Nigeria's city planning could look like. Today, residents are raising alarms about property sales, ownership disputes, and what the future of the community actually holds. It's a familiar pattern, I must say. Whether it's housing, land, or public infrastructure, the question that keeps surfacing is the same. Who is protecting the interests of ordinary citizens when decisions that affect their lives are being made? Now, for the North, the situation in Katsina still brings us face to face with one of the hardest conversations in Nigerian governance: banditry, kidnappings, community that have lived with fear for years. And the government is under pressure because military force alone has not ended it. Yet, talking to armed groups carries its own serious risk. Negotiations can look like legitimization, but prolonged insecurity has its own cost in lives, in livelihoods, in the slow erosion of people's belief that the state can protect them. There are no clean answers here, trust me, but the direction has to be towards solutions that actually hold, not just responses that manage, the optics. And the urgency of that couldn't be clearer than what happened in Oyo State on the 15th of May, now 36 days after. Armed men attacked 3 schools in the rural local government area near Ogbomoso. Primary school, Baptist Nursery and Primary School. Children, 39 pupils and 7 teachers were taken. 36 days after, those children and their teachers are still out there. Now, we're thinking about them this morning. Our prayers go out to them, to their family, who woke up this morning and every day since, not knowing and asking loudly, where are their children? Where are their spouses? Where is the protection? Because if children are not even safe inside classroom, the failure goes deeper than politics. It goes to the very foundation of what a society owes its people. This week, of course, we had world leaders meet at the G7 summit to talk about trade, AI governance, climate, ongoing conflict, all on the table. And it can all feel like a conversation is happening very far away, but those decisions travel. They shape the price of fuel at the pump, the terms under which Nigeria exports items, the conditions attached to investments, and the framework within which our economy has to operate. Global politics doesn't stay global for long. Of course, we have Diezani-Madueke. For years, her name has sat at the center of some of the most serious corruption allegations in Nigeria's recent years. I'm sure Gen Z may not know, but, development in UK now is talking about, not finding her guilty. But the real question was never just about her. It was never about her. The first president of the OPEC. It was always about whether Nigeria's institution and international ones are strong enough to follow a case wherever it leads for as long as it takes, regardless of who is sitting at the center of it 11 years after. Because the measure of any anti-corruption effort isn't the noise it generates. It's whether all at the end of it, something was actually received and recovered. Someone was actually held accountable, and citizens could see that justice moved, and even when it moved slowly. From elections to bus stops, from Festac to Casina, from school children in Oyo to the court case in London. The common thread is confidence. Confidence that votes count, that communities are protected, that institutions work, that public money can be recovered, that our children are safe, that tomorrow has a reasonable chance of being better than today, and we hope. And that's what Nigeria is searching for right now. And I hope we find it. Good morning. And of course, I say happy Father's Day to all the men out there who's watching, those who are sleeping, and those who their children are on their necks. And of course, to Mazino here at the studio. Good morning, Mazino. How are you?
Thank you very much, Queen. I am fine. I'm doing good as a father. And thank you for reminding me. I was going to query you if you didn't greet me so.
Oh, wow.
Thank you very much. That's grand.
Well, happy Father's Day, dear Mazino.
This is good. You practically went through everything that we're going to talk about today.
Yes.
But one thing that stood out for me, still stands out, is the Alison-Madueke case, which, of course, she's been acquitted. But acquittal doesn't mean that corruption didn't happen. That's something
I cannot wait
take
for you to have that conversation.
I can't wait to have it. So when you come over, when we get started.
Oh, before I go, happy Father's Day to all the men at New Central.
Yes, indeed. Happy Father's Day.
See you on the other side.
Well, good morning and welcome again. After Queen's monologue, I don't know if I should still be doing this, but welcome to Breakfast Extra once again. Today, we begin with Nigeria's evolving democratic journey as attention turns to the 2026 off-cycle elections that took place yesterday. Beyond voter turnout and political participation, key questions are being raised about credibility, about electoral trust, and what these elections may signal ahead of 2027 general elections themselves. We'll also take a closer look at a growing urban challenge in Lagos, where rising economic pressure is forcing some residents to turn public spaces, including BRT bus stops, into temporary shelters. It reflects a deeper concern around housing, affordability, and social welfare in Nigeria's commercial capital. In a second hour, we turn to Festac Town, where I live, where residents are raising concerns over alleged property sales and also changes to the original structure of the estate. The dispute has sparked conversations around transparency, urban planning, and the protection of public facilities within long-established communities. Also, we examine the security situation in Ekiti State, where communities continue to face threats from armed groups despite ongoing military operations and peace efforts. And in the third hour, our final hour, we widen the lens to global affairs with a focus on the G7 summit that took place earlier this week, or rather last week, in France. World leaders deliberate on issues of economic stability, security, and global priorities. But how do these decisions impact Africa and shape its role within the global economic and political order, especially that Africa was totally absent at the summit? Finally, we reflect on a major legal development from the UK involving former Petroleum Minister Diezani Alison-Madueke following a court ruling that has renewed debate around international corruption cases and Nigeria's anti-corruption framework. Now, this is Breakfast Extra. You're welcome. It's a packed show. We have so much to discuss and so many guests are coming, so do stay with us. Queen,
Yes, Mazin.
My auntie has been acquitted. My uncle
I like how you choose your family members
she's now my
wisely.
Auntie.
Your auntie, and then your uncle is building things.
My uncle is building stuff in Abuja, up and down.
And she's wealthy.
My auntie might soon be coming back. But one thing I'd like to say is that I'm glad that she's in good health. If you remember, a couple of years ago, there were speculation about her health. But she looks good. She looks good. And she told the press how it had affected her all this while and everything. But while that's happening, it's also... I like to think that the case itself was not to the advantage of Nigeria, because there were other cases that were pending and waiting for this case to be over, and they actually are not Nigerian instances. They have to do with use of, is it infrastructure or position or status and all? So, well, those cases are definitely going to be affected now that she's been acquitted of this one. But one thing, like I said from before, is that acquittal doesn't mean that there was no wrongdoing. It was just a simple case of
not enough evidence.
Prosecution, exactly, not being able to provide enough evidence.
Right.
And especially after 11 years, most of your evidence would have eroded. People's memory would have failed. Documents would have been lost if they were documents.
And I think that we're trying her on things or properties or events that happened in the UK.
Exactly.
So it wasn't things that happened outside. So if it took 11 years for UK, the question is, will she come back to Nigeria? Because someone said EFCC is waiting for the airport.
Her nephew is also waiting for Oh, yes, indeed.
Okay, the 2026 off-cycle elections have come and gone with, well, we're here for 5 years, 5 hours. It has gone indeed, with voters heading to the polls in several states to elect their leaders. While winners have emerged, the elections have also reignited conversations around voter turnout, the credibility of the process, and what these outcomes could mean as the country gradually looks ahead of the 2027 general election. Wake up.
So beyond the results, attention is also on the conduct of the polls, the collation process, and the reactions trailing the outcome in different states. This morning, we are joined by our correspondent, Omani, who, well, he's been following the events, and of course, he is also on ground, and he's going to help us draw attention to what exactly has happened so far. Nii, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. Nii, could you give us an update on what we should expect from after the elections? Bring us up to speed on the Ondo elections. What were the final results? What stood out during the exercise, Nii?
Let me start from the exercise. I remember during the process, I had the opportunity of interviewing the APC candidate himself, Mr. Francis, now Senator Francis. I asked him to rate INEC, the electorate, and of course security operatives across those three factors for the process, and he mentioned that he was satisfied so far with what he had seen, preparedness of INEC, and also I asked some of the electorates, what do you think about INEC so far? And he said they came in on time, they got to their polling station on time. Some of these things we also saw because we moved with them very early in the morning. Most of the electoral materials had arrived at the RAC Center a day before, and from the RAC Center they had deployed all necessary people and materials to various polling units, even as of 7:50 when we got there, and we moved from the RAC Center to some of the polling units at that time as well, and we could confirm most of them were already there at 8 o'clock. And by 8, some were already doing the number introduction, telling the people how the voting process would go and how everything would be. But what was quite disturbing is the numbers. And aside the fact that we could see it on the ground, because when we got to some of the places, this Ondo South Senatorial District by-election cuts across 6 local governments out of the 18 in Ondo states. The 6 are Ileoluji, Okegbo, Ilaje, Eseodo, Odigbo, Irele, and Okitipupa. Those are the only 6 affected. And we moved across at least 3 to 4 of this local government, and we could tell you the turnout was not good at all. We spoke to some of the electorates, noting why are we not seeing people come out en masse to exercise their franchise. And he mentioned something very spectacular, that most don't even know that there was a by-election in Ondo State. And because of the time frame, I think this, in his words, said it happened suddenly. the people who came out to vote are people who their party had actually done some sort of extensive or private sensitization to, noting that there's going to be a by-election, so please, as a card carrying member, as a party carrying member, please go out to vote. Most of the people we saw were party carrying members from various parties, but just ordinary electorate were very few that we saw. So that's one major concern, and it shows in the number, because from the numbers I have here, from the released number by INEC, 673,446 registered voters. Those were the voters who registered for these Ondo State senatorial by-election, but here's the number that actually vote. Total votes cast 70,770. Out of over 600,000, we had over just 70,000 people come out to vote, and that says a lot. And just out of this over 70,000, APC, the candidate which Mr. Francis who emerged the winner, took over 68,000 of that vote. And of course, you can tell it's almost in a situation whereby you see someone who has a party and says, oh, party members come out, and if is the one who is in abundance on the field, they just pull the strength. Basically, that's just what happened.
Thank you, Nii, for that. My concern now is, you mentioned that some people were not aware of the by-election. Should we now say that is the fault of the people, or the parties did not do enough, or will I say that the government did not do enough advert to say that this is vacant, or we'll just say that the people just don't care?
I would say it's some sort of shared responsibility, because I recall once getting to Ondo State as well, most of the journalists that would have loved to cover the Ondo South by-election had already registered for the Ekiti election, only for INEC to schedule the Ondo South senatorial by-election on the same day. So most of them didn't want to do a double registration. So even for journalists, some journalists could not stay back, and because they had registered for Ekiti alone, they had to just go for the Ekiti election. So we had very few, not so much journalists in Ondo State covering the Ondo South senatorial district election, and that's on the part of now media. Now for the people, I also spoke with some politicians. They mentioned they hardly even had time to do campaigns, according to what I heard. I don't know, maybe it's sprung up on them suddenly as well, but most of them didn't have time to do a campaign. Where you will see people come out a little bit are from local governments who have candidates, and even at that, the numbers that came out were not as much as what you would expect. In a particular polling unit which had over 899 registered voters, only 37 came out to vote, and even out of the 37, one was void, so 36 votes out of 899. So that says a lot. And for the electorate also, a day before the election, we had gone into the community to ask people, are you going to vote? Some people are even looking at me, is there an election? That also goes to say a lot. So I think it's cuts across various parts for the government. We don't know if the timing was enough for people to prepare, if the sensitization was done enough across all social media platforms or across the television or radio. We don't know if that information was passed on time. And for the contenders themselves and the party, maybe they've done their bit, or they could have done more to sensitize their people and to tell them to come out and vote. And for the electorate, naturally, we know this is an ongoing conversation about voter apathy, that people do not want to even come out and vote anymore. So that plays a whole lot. So I feel it's a shared responsibility, and it's just not one-sided.
Much Nii for that update.
Thank you,
We
Nii.
appreciate that.
Yes,
Now let's cross over to our correspondent Victor Mbadike, who is in Ekiti, to give us an update of what happened yesterday in terms of accreditation of the voting and the counting. Victor, please go ahead and give us the update.
Hi guys, good morning. Well, the good thing is the election has come and it has gone, so it is left with the people of Ekiti to, cope with whoever they've chosen as their leader to lead them for the next 4 years. And coincidentally, Biodun Oyebanji is retained his seat as governor of the state. Of course, if you talk about the accreditation, that's the beginning of the entire electioneering process. For most part of the polling units that I visited in Ikere, Ekiti, it's just about 30 minutes drive outside the state capital. A lot of voters had issues, getting their faces verified by border voter accreditation system, which is the beavers. And so it meant that two things. It's either the system delays them or they're not able to vote eventually. So while some persons could not vote because the beavers could not capture their faces at the end of the day, some persons waited for as long as 2, 3, 4 hours before the system could eventually get their face. So we had a glitch in that area for beavers, although not the entire polling centers that we've been to, but for most part of the polling center, it was a very serious issue. In fact, as a matter of fact, there was a particular polling center that they actually finished voting as sometime around 4:30. When the official time was actually for 2:30, and that's because the beavers was a huge problem. So aside from that, there were several allegations of vote buying. I mean, you could see the frustrations on the faces of some of the voters and party agents who felt that they were being cheated by the system. Like I said, by the system. You know, that's that. And thirdly, I just again noticed that, I mean, the turnout from that we saw in almost all these polling centers were really amazing, because I thought that there would be some kind of voter party because of what we usually experience over the years, especially as what we saw in 2022 when the governor first came on board. We only had about 36.5% actually coming out to vote eventually. So, but this time there was a huge increase in that number. But the argument for some persons could be that maybe the numbers were increased because some persons, there are allegations of the incumbent or opposition is going to pay you if you come out and vote and stuff, maybe. And also notice a lot of aged, elderly men and women actually came out to vote in their 70s, in their 80s. I met a 92-year-old woman who will do anything possible to, get out there and vote. I mean, these guys should be resting in their houses, but they took it upon themselves to be part of the process. So aside from all of that, the security was also top-notch. Wouldn't really have any issues with the security, except for the fact that in the areas where we saw, because we took videos of this moment, where we saw voters casting their ballot and then showing their slips to party agents, we had security officials there, and they did nothing about that. I thought that aside from the fact that they were there to forestall any form of skirmishes or interrupt any form of violence and what have you, maybe they could also, entrench and uphold the sanctity of, any election at any given time. But we didn't see that happen with these police officers. Perhaps it's probably not part of their mandate. But that, I felt a little uncomfortable with that. Not until they saw that News Central was actually on top of their game, taking this video, they began to make some, adjustment and stuff like that. So, but aside from that, the security was also top-notch, guys.
Well, thank you so much, Victor, for that update. We appreciate that.
Thank you,
Of course,
Victor.
now we're crossing over again to our correspondent, Chiwel, who's in Enugu, to give us a breakdown of what happened at the by-election in Enugu. Chiwel, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Enugu's by-election was quite peaceful, although we did hear about some, pockets of disturbances, but we couldn't substantiate all those claims. But largely it was a peaceful exercise in the local governments we monitored. Remember, there were 6 local government areas that were involved in the by-election for the replacement of the senator representing Enugu North senatorial zone. And we're able to touch 3 local governments out of the 6. And the whole places where we went to, we didn't witness any disturbance at all. Though the PDP's candidate raised issues about a particular polling unit, but we couldn't substantiate that, like I said. Largely, the people, there was low turnout of voters, except for polling units where candidates are from. That is where you just see semblance of, queues and all of that. Otherwise, the exercise was somehow marred with low turnout. Voter apathy was in place. Then another issue yesterday was the beavers. A lot of people complained. In fact, the senator-elect right now, that is the Asogwa Ikeje, who contested under the APC. The beavers couldn't capture him for hours. In fact, until we left there, over 2 hours, he was waiting. but we learned later on in the day that he was eventually captured by the beavers. And that was the same case for some other people. They complained about the beavers' malfunction and the fact that the exercise equally started late in some locations. Some places, the exercise started as late as 11 a.m. And so that made the program, the voting to extend beyond 2 p.m. We got to a particular polling unit where we thought they would have started sorting and counting, but they told us they wouldn't do that. They were waiting for more, giving time for more people. There were no people coming, but they said they would still wait because they started late. So they needed to give people the opportunity to also vote because some had come and gone. Now, talking about the voter apathy, part of the reasons the people claimed off camera, especially the officials, was that some of the women, old women, when they came out to vote, they asked for who was sharing money and they were told there was no money to be shared. So they left. Some of them left. They came hoping that there would be something. So we didn't experience any form of vote buying. And again, we also saw that some political parties, did not actually mobilize. It was just a matter of just being on the ballot. They didn't actually take the election seriously. So, but largely the exercise was peaceful and people were able to participate. And then finally, maybe before I go, was that, like I said about mobilization, also information, sensitization is also key. People, not many people knew there was an election yesterday, even though the only way some of them knew was that shops and markets were closed because government and security agencies insisted. And then the presence of security on the highways and within the polling units, was quite visible. So, but going forward, I think what the government can do is to make sure that they make the people, the electorate, understand the need for everybody who is eligible to vote to participate in electoral processes. Back to you.
Joel Gilly, thank you so much for that update.
Thank you, Joel.
Now let's cross over to our in-house reporter, Mazino Appeal, to give us a breakdown.
I was wondering exactly who we're crossing to again.
It is you.
I wanted to say something regarding everything that has been said from our reporters from Ondo, Ekiti, and also Enugu. Voter apathy, but not in Ekiti State. Victor said that people actually turned out. Right. However, I think he mentioned out of 600,000 PVCs, there's only 70,770, and out of that, 68,000 went to the APC. Right. Note, this is what's happening on the grassroots. You're seeing the APC take over. Now, what's going to happen after in 2027? You're going to hear that, oh, APC rigged it and everything. But I'm saying now, if you can't get participation by people from the local government level, the grassroots level, and you can see the numbers going where they're going, don't complain eventually, because you know where it's going, you can see it. Two examples, Ilaja and Eseado, for instance, in Ondo State that Ibalani told us about, there was very little representation when it comes to the voters. These are highly commercially viable local government areas because they're coastal. Imagine what you can do there. Now, what might happen is people begin to complain about the resources when eventually these viable assets start to get used. They start complaining, oh, we're not gaining from it. Were you there during elections to choose your leaders is the question. Wow. I wish I could have spoken to Ibalani about that.
Mazino to the reporter's desk. But yeah, that's it. Let's go on a short break. When we return, we start another conversation. To stay with us. Welcome back. Now, before we start our conversation, let's cross over to our correspondent, Israel Aforobo, who's in Ekiti, to give us an update. Israel, take us through the collation process and the result announcement and any other thing that we've missed out.
Yes, indeed, Celestine, good morning to you. The collation process was one of the seamless that I have seen in my years of covering elections here in Nigeria. This one here that happened in Ekiti State just a few hours ago, just concluded in the early hours of today, was one that, like I said, seamless. And I'll tell you, and the reason why I say this is because we've seen elections where you have got to wait endless hours sometimes for the collation to be concluded, for the process to be perfected, finalized before the actual announcements of the results. But everyone who gathered yesterday at the collation center at the headquarters early this morning, what I saw was a process that indeed started at the right time with all the stakeholders taking their seats on time. There was a slight delay at the beginning, but when the process started, it was seamless. The returning officers from all centers, from all the local government, they were all promptly available, making available all of the figures that they have been able to gather from voters across the 16 local government areas of the state. And the process went on really easy, even at the point where the returning officer usually they normally take a recess at some point, but this did not happen. It went on from the start till the very, very end. And when the announcement was made, it was a room filled with media men, filled with election observers, and just two of the agents of the ADC, just one, and then that of the APC as well. So we had only two of them present yesterday, just early this morning, for the announcement of the results. So we didn't see much of a process where one would say maybe there will be some form of disagreement with the results. There was nothing like that. There were issues where at some point the returning officer had to tell them, you need to go and reconfirm your numbers, because at the end of the day, the numbers weren't tallying up to what should be. So, but that didn't even take long. So yes, if you ask me how the process went, taking you through all of it, this is just a summary of how it all went. All the collation officers, they were right on time from the local government areas, the 16 local government areas. The REC, Dr. Bumi Omoshe-Indemi, was also on ground, and the returning officer, everyone did their job, and indeed they left just after the announcement of the winner of the Ekiti State governorship election for 2026. Celestine?
Thank you so much, Israel, for that update. We appreciate. Now let's come back to Lagos, where we are. And Lagos is often described as Nigeria's city of opportunities, attracting thousands of people daily in search of work, education, and a better life. But for many residents, the rising cost of living, housing shortages, and economic pressures are creating a different reality, one where public infrastructure is increasingly becoming a place of refuge. Across parts of the city, some Lagosians are now spending nights in BRT terminals and bus shelters, using spaces originally designed for transportation as temporary homes.
Now, for many, these scenes are a reflection of deeper economic challenges facing ordinary Nigerians. With rents rising, transportation costs increasing, and wages struggling to keep pace with inflation, some residents say they are simply trying to survive the best way that they can. So, our correspondent, Francis Esenwa, well, he filed in this situation report. Let's take a look.
During the day, BRT bus stops across Lagos are filled with movement and activity. Commuters pass through these terminals daily, using the buses to get to work, school, and other destinations. But when night falls and activities reduce, these terminals are no longer just transit points. You see some people in their wheelbarrows, others underneath their covers sleeping. Sleeping inside these bus terminals overnight is prohibited. But for many here, there are no alternatives. David Robinson is 16 years old and the only child of his mother. He left Benin City to Lagos State about a year ago to cater for himself and for his aging mother.
Since when I came to this Lagos, I did not have any work. So I decided to carry some load for me to survive. I sold my clothes and my phone. I don't have where to sleep, so I'm sleeping in the bus stop. Since I sold my phone, I've not heard from my mother since 2 years.
For Sheson Luasheun, losing his job left him with no choice, but the only alternative available to him.
I meet one guy. He used to collect money from the people of the market in Ikorodu. From that boy, I started doing conductor. From the conductor, I started the kaya. From being a kaya, I started night to come here to come and sleep. When I started doing conductor, that's why I can't afford the house rent again.
When asked why they have refused to return home, they express fear of showing up as failures and say they would rather live like this, hoping for a turnaround.
I'm a convertality man. I'm a supreme of convertality. I'm already outside since year 2000. All those people where they see for there, they push by road. Some they take care, they carry load. They got to have somewhere to keep their head.
As Lagos continues to grow, so too does the number of people struggling to keep a roof over their heads. With an estimated number of over 22 million people, Lagos is projected to face a housing deficit of about 3 million units. This projection presents concerns that in the near future, more vulnerable residents might be forced onto the streets, which poses serious social and security challenges for the state. In Lagos for News Central, Francis Esenwa.
Now, beyond the immediate concern of shelter, questions are emerging about social welfare, affordable housing, and the responsibility of the government in addressing the growing number of vulnerable people in major cities. Now, to help us understand the broader implications of this development and what it says about housing, urban planning, and economic realities in Nigeria's commercial capital, we're joined now by our correspondent, Francis Esenwa, and also Olakule Afolabi, who's a senior real estate specialist. Gentlemen, good morning. At this point, I think I've been talking too much, and I know that Mazino have more experience with the people.
I'm going to start with our very first, very important question. Why such a very interesting voice on you on that package? Who are you trying to woo exactly? Francis?
I'm not sure myself.
Francis, welcome on Breakfast Extra. It's a very relaxed show, so don't worry. And Olakunle, you're also welcome as well.
Thank you. Good morning.
Well, first of all, Francis, let's ask why this was a report that you had to take. What exactly pulled your attention to the report?
Okay, thank you. I observed while going home one morning. I used the BRT terminal going from Ikorodu to Sulere, and it was quite busy. You get activities, people buying tickets, people checking into the bus and all that. Then in the evening, I was coming back around 9. I also saw the shift, the change. The BRT bus stops were no longer where people would transit from one point to another. People now began. I saw someone. What really put my attention? Someone pulling a cardboard to lay at that time of the night. I was really wondering what's going on. Then I moved in, then I just saw mosquito nets, and that person bringing her child close to her, and I was really, really concerned. They shouldn't be here. They shouldn't be here. So I decided to do a report on that to check and see how far this goes. Because from DBR, I stopped at barracks. So I took another bus another day, and I was really observant. All the way from barracks, Fade and Tony, all the way down back again to Ikorodu. I could see at every BRT terminal.
So it's consistent.
It's a consistent. Yeah, you see 3-4 people just seeking shelter there, which should not be.
And I mean, this is not your experience from before living in Lagos. Are you saying that it's increasing? And from your research into the matter while you're gathering the report, what else did you find out regarding these people? Are they homeless people? Are they people who can't afford homes? What's the factor that's responsible for bringing them out?
Okay, each individual case is as numerous as the people themselves.
Interesting.
For the 3 people that were in the package, you see different reasons. For the little boy, he came all the way from Benin City to Lagos because he had Lagos is a place where dreams come true.
Yeah.
So someone said a joke one time. He said for other states, when you're coming to those states, you hear welcome to Delta, welcome to Ekiti, but Lagos, you just see this is Lagos.
It's a warning.
It's a warning. This is Lagos. From there, you're meant to use your head.
Use your six.
So exactly. But he had heard different stories. People coming here, making it out of nothing.
Yeah.
But what he met on ground is different from what he had envisioned. Like he said, he had not spoken to his mother for 2-3 years. He has been here. He doesn't have slippers. He doesn't have basically any change of clothes. So we were able to track that. I was able to track that and see. So during the day, one thing what you'd not find in the report is I wanted to go back there during the day to see how the boy survives. Don't just see how the boy survives. Okay. So at night he stays there, but during the day, what happens? But while we got there, like I said, he didn't have a phone. Another thing you don't see in that report is while we were there, like I said, this is Lagos. It's a very unique place. While we were there recording, we got to record the Agberos, the Monilians. They came out en masse and decided, why did one of us carry the stick? So we had to, of course, safety. We had to quickly enter the vehicle and zoom off. So I couldn't follow, but something about the investigation unit is also looking at, following up and seeing what these people do during the day. Right. So yeah, that's
why you needed Israel. He has some experience in being shoved by.
I'll wait for him to get back.
When he gets back, he'll accompany you next time.
I'm sure you saw the report. So what's your take on that report?
So for me, I'm not surprised. It's a good thing that you've cited that, and trust me, it even goes beyond this BRT thing you just said. Yeah. There are people homeless, not just, I mean, the people living in BRT, taking shelter there, is because they don't have shame. They are there. There are some people that have shame. Do you know where they go to?
No.
People live in the mosques, in the churches, even in local government secretariats. You see people taking shelter there because they can't afford to get an apartment even in any locality they are here in Lagos. So it's not just if you can cite BRT, there are many other hidden places because they don't have they have that shame of not staying under the bridge. Even under the bridge, in filling stations, you see people. The one that shocked me most, like I said, even local government secretariats, there are people living around the compound.
So what's the biggest factor responsible here? Is it that inflation is causing people not to be able to afford housing? You're a senior real estate specialist.
Emphasis on
senior.
Emphasis on that. Yeah,
so
it's been a long time.
Is it an infrastructure problem or is it an economic problem?
Okay, so for me, it is both. But of course, because of knowledge, a lot of people will say economy, but it is both infrastructure and economic problem. People can't afford these houses that are out there for we masses, and you get to find out that whatever they are earning as salary cannot make them afford whatever is available out there. In a large view, we are supposed to have what we call LSDPC home. That is meant for civil servants and people. We know what minimum wage is now. If you calculate it for the whole year, what can you rent with it? Nothing. Even houses that are like shanties, you still find out that the prices are not enough for the common tomato sellers, pepper sellers, not to now talk of someone that is saying you are earning maybe 75 or 80K monthly. If you calculate the money in a year, where do you want to rent? So the economy too is affecting it. Then, like I said, Lagos State, if we're talking about Lagos State is supposed to provide this low-cost housing for these people. But how low can they go, if we are being honest? How low can they go for these people to be able to afford it? So it is just a sad situation that we found ourselves. And even people now live in uncompleted buildings, and they are paying for it. And you still find out that some people can still not afford the uncompleted building to live there.
Let's do a little bit of math here. Let's say for the most minimalist type of habitat that you can live in Lagos, that's how much? What would you say when it comes to rent? I'm trying to do the math here.
It depends who can habit in.
Habitable. Let's see. Habitable habits with a bit of amenities, a kitchen, a.
Did you say amenities?
Okay, sorry. Remove amenities.
Remove amenities.
Let's say one room apartment. You share your bathroom and everything.
Yeah.
Roof over your head.
Yes, like a 500K.
Wow. No.
And where would that be? What area?
Okay. So this is it. Yes. If we are looking at Lagos at large, we can now say other places like maybe Ikorodu, Lakwe, Eleko, deep inside Origo.
So let's look at these places. How much Ikorodu, Lakwe, all of these?
Like 250.
Okay, 250.
Yes.
So if minimum wage is 70,000, that brings you up to 880,000 naira per year.
Yeah.
So that means you need more than a quarter of your.
And this is face
income.
me, I face you. I'm talking about.
Face me, I face you.
Of course.
You need a quarter of your income to actually be able to.
You feed.
You'll feed
There
out
will be
of
medical bills. There's transportation.
Yeah.
There is family, something you didn't expect that will come up.
But first of all, you must have a job. And apparently from the report, most of these people do not have jobs.
So not everybody falls under the housing deficit.
Okay.
Basically, housing deficit is from what's housing deficit is. You have lower units in range with the number of people looking for houses. So that causes the price increase. But not everybody can even afford the 250. Like that's like these people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, like I said, each case is different to the people involved. One of the last person I spoke with, he said, so he had a home in Ikorodu. He lost his job. He came into Lagos,
to the urban
to
side.
Maryland to work as a conductor. That failed. He started carrying those people. You know those when you're in the bus. Those guys that Kaya, like you said, Kaya guys.
Guys.
I'm sure you. I don't know if you.
No, sorry.
I'm not sure.
She's
I'm
Lekki.
not sure
She lives in
relates.
Lekki.
So let me just explain. So when a bus has like tomatoes and all that, those guys that chase the bus, they pull down and they carry your load for you to your destination.
Nice.
That's what most of them do. So the 250,000 naira, it's off. They can't even get that.
Not them.
It's not them at all. It's not them at all. Now, like you said, they pay in those uncompleted buildings. Now, it's interesting to know that they also pay at those terminals.
Oh.
Yes, there are people
Who do
they pay, like I said, the upgrades, those that came out. They thought,
it's not
so
free.
it's not free.
So it's an entire commercial ecosystem
It's an ecosystem on
Yes.
itself. So they don't just sleep there overnight. There are people you pay to sleep.
More like protection.
More like protection, exactly. So we asked, how safe are you? Especially to the 14-year-old boy, how safe are you here? He said, no, it's pretty good. He just pays his daily tax.
It's even safer than people that have fences.
Exactly.
Exactly. Let's go there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
How much does he pay?
Would
He
you
pays
say
like 2,000-3,000. He can't pay every
a month?
Okay, but he
or
just
No.
a day?
per day just to sleep.
3,000 naira per day.
So depending on who.
Yeah.
And
You know, do the
familiarity.
calculation. Why I asked or like
3,000 naira. Okay,
so,
go ahead.
You spoke to the boy who came from Benin, and
Yeah.
he hasn't spoken to his mother in 2 years. Okay, luckily, would you say that Lagos is doing more, because I like this is Lagos, would you say Lagos is doing more adverts as to attracting people, but there's really no opportunity, there's no safe haven here. They just attract you here, and then they later complain that, we have a lot of people on the street.
Yeah, if I'm going to talk about this, there is going to be a little bit of bias. Lagos is a state of opportunity.
Is it?
Everybody wants to come here, Every day you find out people coming into Lagos. That's why the population of Lagos keeps increasing. Lagos has painted this heaven, like you say. But for me, as a man, I think there are opportunities in Lagos. But it's just that if you are lazy, you won't see them. You just need the right information and for you to be at the right place. Even at the very low level, I've seen people come to Lagos. This kaya of a thing that you are talking about, I've seen people come to Lagos because of it. Go to Idumota market.
It is opportunity.
It's thank you. It's
But while Lagos is
opportunity for
attracting
them.
all of these people, can Lagos sustain them when it comes to habitat?
No. Everybody still feel one way or the other they will just survive. Trust me, there are many things happening out there that you don't want to hear about in the race to surviving.
I just started off. There is also a very big concern. And I was hoping that now that you're here, now you can't live without passing waste, without taking a bath and all of that. So how do these people who live at these terminals, how do they go about their daily businesses?
We asked. Interesting. So there's a reason why when you pass through those areas, you're already covering your nose.
That's why Lagos smells.
That's why Lagos smells. So you have people who cannot pass their waste as they should. People sleeping on the road. So we went there and we could see someone already coming back from behind the terminal
after doing his
business, then coming back to lay his head. So when you have that, like I said, all the way from Ikorodu down to Costain, those BRT terminals at night, just you see people there. So you have that long stretch of people passing waste along Lagos. So you now.
And sorry, let me come in. These people, we say we do 9 to 5. Yes, we can wake up 5 a.m., 6 a.m., have our baths, go to work. These people do 4 a.m. to 12 a.m. So you can imagine, they are the real hustlers. Do you know how they take their baths? they have to wake up as early enough as like 3, 4 a.m. to do their business because they don't want people seeing them. So those people, they woke up 4 a.m. to do that. And once it's like 10, you won't find them going to bed. When we are going to bed,
they have to wait for everywhere to be cleared. They still have to wait
for everywhere to be cleared before they now sleep at maybe 12 a.m. and still wake up 4 a.m.
That's exactly when we went out.
Kule, you just said something, and that's discipline. I don't think alarm will wake me at 4. Like, it takes 7 people to wake me at 4
you know,
to tell me, oh yeah, wake up, and I'm angry. Now, would you say that there's an opportunity here for these boys? Because if they decided to be, what do you call it, carrier?
Kaya. Like I said,
not
I'm sure you don't have
word.
Kaya.
Yeah. So for it to be posh, carrier.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Carriers, okay.
Carriers, rather.
Kule is in charge of the jokes now.
Would you say there's an opportunity there for the Lagos State?
For Lagos State?
Yes. If they decided
Manpower.
not to steal, they decided to find something to hustle for themselves. Would you say that these boys are something that you could, reintegrate into the system?
I see what you did there.
Yeah, I see what she do. But there's this, my brother, I call him my brother now, I forgot his name. This chess guy that goes to the slum to...
Tunde.
Tunde Onokoya, thank you. Look at what he's doing with those guys.
Yeah.
They do same thing with it. Some of those guys are carriers too. They are not just children from the slum. Some are carriers under the bridge and all of that.
So there is work for the governments. There is an opportunity for these lads.
There is. But it's just that some of these people, trust me, they enjoy that life. The moment you try to take them out, is as if you are taking their joy away. It's as if you are taking something out of them.
There's the drugs.
Yeah.
Thank you. You know, there's
someone if you go through the story, you see someone in a mosquito net. So we tried to wake her up. The boys told us that she was disoriented. She had just gotten, she's not herself, she's not mental, that she has overdosed, exactly. So we could not interview. We tried to wake her, but she was stiff. She could not wake up. Yeah. So you have those people. So the security also in that area. So you can't move there at night. It took 3 of us to move, and we are still threatened. Now imagine going by yourself at night.
So this was focused mainly on BRT terminals. Were you able to speak to the authorities that maintained these BRT terminals?
Yes. We tried to get across, but of course, as Lagos,
no response.
Lagos is Lagos.
Yeah.
Once they see camera, they think you have come to do something against them. You know.
Yeah.
Some of these people, they don't know that you are even coming to enlighten them, to make them see the broader picture that, okay, this is what we are trying to do.
Right.
They always feel attacked, and they won't allow you to do
like Mazino said, it's not just BRT. Remember the Lagos Coastal Road and how the boys moved from, behind Marwa and the rest into the express and start threatening people and stoning them because now they know where you live. They know where celebrities live and all that. So they know how to stay in the junction. They wake up at 4. They know that Mazino lives his house.
They know your car.
They know your car. Maziro's car and his bike.
There are spotters around,
Exactly.
It's just crazy, just like you were saying about when I was saying that they bring these guys out, and some of them would not want to leave. The truth is that there is opportunity for them. As far as Lagos is concerned, there are opportunities for them.
Okay, so as a real estate expert, specialist, what could the solution be, taking governance into view and the population of these homeless people as well as factors? Okay,
so Lagos State is, I will not say that they are not trying. They are trying, but it's just that for this set of people we are talking, for this level of people we are talking about, they have no savior. Nobody is going to... Yeah.
The infrastructure available is not meant for this. It's not meant for them.
They can't even assess it. Even we, it's difficult. It's difficult for us to assess. I mean, you don't want me to speak about what LSDPC home costs now. We want you to. I mean, okay, low cost house, Abi. It's supposed to be for maybe their civil servants and all of they can afford it. But when these houses are being built now, there is being sold out within
themselves. And at how much exactly?
To directors. Okay, they can put a figure out there and say, this house is supposed to be okay, I'll speak with my own experience. This house is supposed to be 35 million off plan, and they will finish it up in maybe under 1 year, and you move into your house. You will see the off plan, you can't purchase. You will see the finishing. You will wonder that, okay, maybe they want to sell when they finish. You will get there, you will hear it's all been sold out. To who?
And to whom?
Big men,
you know,
who are,
now you will now find, after it's been sold out within, those people within now want to sell it out. You will now be hearing 150 million.
Oh.
You will now be hearing 200 million.
This is
low cost.
This is supposed to be low cost housing.
And there's nothing low about it.
After they have now sold it to investors that want to buy and use it for business, do you know how much it's being rented out for?
How much?
6 million.
So you've just painted a picture of an Ouroboros, and that means the problem when it comes to Lagos is you can't solve it, which is very disheartening because there's no hope at the end of this conversation.
Freely?
Yes, speak freely.
I was it sometimes early June, I think the first 3 days of June, a client of mine called me and said he wants apartment in a particular area in Surulere. So we went there. It's premium area, I mean. So when I say premium, it's just the area. The houses are not really premium.
They're old.
Because even if we talk about Central Surulere, we have more of old houses, the colonial house, than this new generation. So I was there and I saw a banner on a house. The name looks familiar. I said, this is one of my Oga that we worked at Wema board together sometimes 8 years ago. I said, let me call him. I called him. Oga, I see your banner somewhere. He was like, yeah, we are the one there, this and that. I said, okay, I'm here with the client. Let me look at this place. We went up, we checked it. Very basic house. Very basic, but just in a premium estate. How much is this house? And I'm hearing 8 million. I'm like, 8 million, wow. How? What is happening? Okay, back and forth. Clients are wonderful people too. You know, they want to stay premium area. You know, there are houses for 4 million that are way finer than this 8 million naira house. Then I just asked, who is the owner of this house? And to my surprise, it belongs to a politician. A politician that says he's fighting for the people. And we are begging this person to take 7.5. He still says no. So you can imagine, the people in the system that understands the pain are still the one putting the pain out there.
One way I think we can curb the influx, it's the transportation system. There's no reason why everybody should be in Lagos. With the proper transportation system, you can stay probably in
I agree with you.
And work in Lagos.
Or maybe even move some big companies away. That way you would some other states.
Spread it around.
Yes.
Not everybody has to converge on Lagos.
What you have said is actually the right projection. Move some of these big companies away. So I've been to a lot of places in Nigeria, a lot of states, and I noticed that our people from the East, they are now buying into this idea. They are, if not for the insecurity we know that is everywhere, they are moving their big millions back to their place. And it's working out. If we have a good transportation system, like you have said,
it pretty much shows everything. Gentlemen, we got carried away and this conversation just started to run. Francis, I hope you like our little island called Breakfast Extra here.
It's really good.
Thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us for this very candid conversation on infrastructure in Lagos and the housing deficit. We hope that the situation will be looked into by the authorities, taking off from our report here on News Central. Well, we continue to hope. Do stay with us. We've got more conversation inside of Breakfast Extra. We'll be back.
Welcome back. Now, residents of Festac Town in Lagos are raising fresh concerns over alleged sales and conversion of estate facilities within the community. The issue has triggered protests and renewed calls for government intervention to protect public infrastructure in the area. According to residents and community groups, several facilities originally meant for shared public use are reportedly being affected, raising fears about the gradual loss of amenities within the estate. Authorities are urged to step in and clarify the status of the disputed properties.
Now, community leaders say Festac Town was designed as a structured residential estate with designated public spaces, but they now worry that changes in ownership and usage are affecting the original master plan of the estate. Now, here's a report by our correspondent Victor Mbadike, who has been following the stories. Let's take a look.
Once regarded as one of Nigeria's most organized housing estates, Festac Town is now at the center of a growing dispute over the sale of public assets. These open spaces, recreation grounds and community facilities were once part of the master plan that defined Festac Town. Today, some residents say many of them are being sold off.
How can the Federal Housing Authority leadership be selling all facilities, selling sewage, selling parks, selling everywhere? Who finds everything sold? If you go straight this road, by Alakija by 3rd Gate by 7th Avenue, there's a sewage facility there for the people that are on that area. If you go to 41 Road, where we're just coming from, there's a sewage facility there. If you go to 4th Avenue by 7th Avenue, a facility is there. 21 Road by 201, a facility is there. Sold! Waterworks at 22 Road, sold. Guess what? Say Mr. President bought it. Big lie.
Our environment is in trouble. They are telling us plant a tree to help combat climate change. Here they are cutting down trees.
These areas we are mentioning, like this place, there's no sane person that can reason to sell this place to anybody. But because of lack of checks and balances and people respecting the constitution of the land, that is how we have found ourselves in this type of situation. So I just want a situation whereby the people concerned should respect themselves and revoke this kind of sales. It's an illegal sale. It's unconstitutional.
Defending the agency's position, the managing director of the Federal Housing Authority, Oyetunde Ojo, says decades of infrastructure decay and revenue challenges have made intervention unavoidable.
This is where miscreants are. That they use as mechanic workshops, they use as a lot of things. Called sewage. Sewage that has been abandoned since 1977. And I told them, we are going to clean Festac. If I have to put Festac back in the right place it ought to be in 1979 plan, I will demolish 4,000 houses. Is that possible? Some of them will call meeting, they will say, come and sit with them and negotiate. Negotiate with who? When these lands are vacant, are they saying the land is their own? So they want to determine for government.
Whether the sale of public assets is a necessary step towards renewal or a threat to the community's heritage remains a question that residents say must be answered. In Lagos for News Central, Victor Mbadike.
Accountability and urgent action to prevent further loss of public facilities. Authorities are yet to issue a detailed response to the latest concerns. And to help us understand what the community is requesting, we're joined by Mr. Valentine Uduebo, who's the convener, Take Festac Amor Duffy. Thank you so much, Mr. Valentine Uduebo, for joining us. Now, my first question would be, just give us a brief explanation. You've seen the report. Just give us a brief explanation.
He was in the report.
Yes, I saw him in the report. Mazino lives there. Just give us a brief understanding of this situation. What is happening in Festac?
Well, Mazino, thank you. The Festac boy.
I see.
I'm out.
Thank you. I didn't get to...
Celestine.
You see, it is pathetic. It's quite very, very unbelievable to have such a structure, such a master plan. You know, when you say Festac is a super culture, super heritage of the black race, you're not saying Nigeria. The Queen of England, then Queen Elizabeth, you know, mayors all over the world, the black race, Zulu of South Africa, you know, Festac was shown to them like this is how the black should live. This is how an estate should look like. It was a superstructure. Let me tell you something. When I moved into Festac, we met chairs, foam, mattress, everything. Everything there. Then if you moved in maybe like in the late 80s, you go to, there's always an FHA office in every of the localities. You go there and tell them, show them your paper that you've been allotted this particular apartment. They will give you foam, give you everything you need. You go back to your house. Then you wake up in the morning, you see a truck. It's the first boy. They will truck, you put water on the ground, water the ground, they sweep the ground. Yes, that's first stack. That's what I meant. Phone booth everywhere. They will sweep first stack. You will see truck, they will sweep it, pack it. Super. You can never, there can never be 1 million rain and you come and say, hey, look, it can never happen. We've never had a sewage problem in first stack since over 40 years. You don't see sewage truck to do what? It's a super structure. And a structure, an estate par excellence. Gwarimpa tried to, they couldn't. First stack is 2,500 square meters, 2,500 hectares. We've only used 500. That place is just about 500. We have about almost 2,000 left to be built upon. So first stack is beautiful. First stack is wonderful. First stack is lovely. So but today, zero.
How do we get from there here? Now, you're here today because, well, that report, first of all. We also had the MD-FHA, Mr. Oyetunde Ojo, there talking about, how did he put it now, redundant infrastructural facilities. And these are the causes of why that report was put together, because there have been, the residents are complaining that these assets are being sold. We don't know who to. What are the effects of these facilities being sold? What effect is it having on the estate?
Yeah, thank you, Mazino. First of all, let me correct the narration of the MD of FHA, which you just played. He said, and I quote, sewage facility be abandoned in 1977. That is preposterous. First stack is 1977 now. How can an institution start in 1977 and that's in 1977 you abandon sewage? I mean, this simply means he has no idea of where he's managing. First stack in 1977, you now say sewage that was abandoned in 1977. That means you have no idea of where you're even managing. Maybe on this note, Mr. President should employ me to be the MD so that I can give Mr. President a detailed report of where I'm managing. Now, let me come down to your question. First stack was built such that you zero out depression, you zero out chaos. When you are home and you find it that, look, there's nowhere to go to. We have love gardens, we have parks. When our parents go to the market, Agboju market, they park around that area. We stay in the park, love garden, and we playing, jangrofa, all of that. When they come, they pick us from there, we go. You can walk in between first stack. First stack is designed to have gates. Of course, I mean, civilization came in, everywhere, so now everybody has a gate. But before, no gate. My parents know my friend's name. We know all ourselves. Now you come to a situation where today, you bring somebody who has no idea of what first stack is. And his primary motive or intention is to sell. Like he said, Mr. President does not give us money. Simply meaning what?
So is he saying that when these assets are sold, that it's recouped back into developing first stack? Is that
no, how can you even say recoup back? How do you recoup back? For instance, the sewage facility that he mentioned. As at yesterday, myself and the president of FTRA, Barrister, the president, we all came together. We went around these facilities, and it was an eyesore. And started putting this place is not for sale. Let me also remind you, there's a court injunction to this effect about 20 years ago, restricting first FHA from selling any of these parks. In fact, the court states, and I quote, that everybody should not to status quo. That is, let things be as it were. Because when you come out and you say you are this and you are that, nothing will happen. You start selling. How can you even sell the sewage facility? In fact, let's even assume it was abandoned. Is it not within your purview to maintain it? Is it not within your responsibility as the MD to ensure that it is why is it abandoned? Why is it blocked? Let us find a way to do a turnaround key maintenance rather than just to sell. And you sell, what is the money used for? So. It is that painful. Let me also tell you, the waterworks that was there, I tell you and I quote, that when I visited FHA during an interview, personal discussion, the waterworks as 3 years or 4 years ago was working. They did a small maintenance at the waterworks on 22 Road by 32 Junction. Houses and homes in 5th Avenue, 22 Road, they open their homes, you see water life.
So that means these facilities can be resuscitated?
Of course now. I said 3 years ago it was working. I said, why did you not stop it? They said they stopped it because the people refuse to pay the billing.
But Valentine, what about the grassroots governance? What about the local government?
And now let me also tell you about the local government. will get to his own turn very soon. Because we're still going to put him into check and balance. But as it is right now, these issues we try to do.
Who are you speaking of?
President local government, the local government has it well. Let me start with the time of Ayo. I don't know what his relationship was with FHA.
Ayo Adewale?
Yeah, Adewale was, I don't know what his relationship was with FHA. But I can also tell you, he was allegedly appointed to be part of the problem we're having. It moved on to Valentine. Then, now that we have a Prince Lanre Sanusi, I decided to come back to Festac. This was in the structures I met. And I challenged Lanre Sanusi and said, look, this is what Festac ought to be. And that's what when he now said, okay, fine. If you have the know-how of Festac, let me give you a job. I said, what is it? Why didn't you supervise the task force committee? That was when you swung into action to remove make-home shanties and make-home shift on our walkways and our roads, which was beautiful. Started bringing out the beauty of Festac. Let me tell you, in Festac, you can stay in 8 close 21 road, you will see the end of 21 road. So there's no reason to have a thief, because if you steal anything, where do you hide? Nowhere. If you stay in 21 road, you will see the end. That is how Festac is. But this make-home shift and this shanties blocked everywhere. Anybody can commit crime and run behind it. We demolished it all. And we said, look, this local government chairman, I think, means well. So we tried to take it from there. Now, investigation revealed that the places we intend to use for our play park to renovate them back, we had sold. Who is selling it? Allegedly.
Are these being sold to residents or are they being sold?
Let me give you the one I know, so that I don't want to. This one I will know it allegedly. The one I know. When I was, of course, we have food soldiers, we have parents. When I mean food soldiers, I'm not going to the parents like me, I'm also food soldier, who goes out to investigate where are all these people, what is going on. And they called me and said, Oga, this particular sewage in 5th Avenue by 22nd Avenue Road has been sold for 100 million. I said, how? I got there, I met the man. Start filling it. He was pouring sand. That place is 50 feet deep. Nothing will block it. That is where everybody go. I met him. I did not give me this. I met him one-on-one. Start filling it with people. We stopped him. On that day, we called upon FHA. FHA swung into action. The town planning man came in e-lock to some of other people with padlock to chain it. Before that time, we had called Lanre Sanusi, who had sent supervisor for health to also chain it. So it was a double change. That particular picture seen, it was double changed by local government and by FHA. So presently, some authority from somewhere gave the man authority. We don't know if we need the chain were broken, so and man started building on top of it.
So that's the issue now. Who is the authority that seems to supersede the FHA and the local government authority?
You see,
if you find that out, then you definitely are getting closer to solving that issue. Because it would seem that it's somebody in a higher power.
Okay, fine. When it happened, we saw it. And we asked him, the man said he paid 100 million. To FHA. I said, really? He said, yes.
To FHA itself, and FHA is responsible for sealing it?
No, I called the MD. I called him, I said, MD, well done. A man said he paid you 100 million. On the phone. If he denies it, I can give MTN a court, my approval, my consent, to tap into my phone line around April 22nd and look at what discussions were between me and the MD.
Interesting.
Yes.
What were these discussions? What was,
and I said to him, oh God, they said they paid you 100 million. And he said, and I quote, but whoever owns his mouth should say whatever has his mouth to say. And he now said, even if the man paid, did he pay to me? He paid to federal government now. I said, really?
So he's insinuating that
even if the man had paid, he has paid federal government. If what I'm saying is a lie, go and bug my line. Go to my fact. On the date I call, I have record. The phones are here. Now, on this same sewage, the people came and they sealed it. Who gave the person authority to go again and break the seal and start erecting on top of a sewage?
Where is the situation now? Where is the case now? At what point now is residents, or rather areas, still being sold? Has there been a
yes, as at yesterday, myself.
And what actions are in place now to try and stop these?
As at yesterday, when all of this were all going on, the Federal Festac Residents Association, FTRA, they themselves now swung into action and said, look, I think it's about time they stop up, and hold the bull by the horn. So I moved into action. I saw them at 5th Avenue by 51 Junction, opposite the residence of the chairman, just adjacent. It's on M close like this. That place had already been fenced. So I met him there, the FTR people there, and we went inside and saw that, look, that place has been sold, and the person was trying to build a structure because the basket they formed is, is for a total building that will come up there. And by the constitution of Festac, which violates anybody from erecting structures or even selling such properties, give the FTRA, the authority to also look into it. We looked into it yesterday, we padlocked the place, and we said that place is not for sale. Beware, buyers. As at yesterday night, some persons went there, removed the banner, broke the padlock, and started offloading sand there.
Well, Mr. Valentine, we'll continue this conversation. Let's go on a short break. When we return, this conversation continues. Do stay with us.
And you're welcome back. It's still Breakfast Extra here, Mazzino and Queen. And of course, we're still talking about matters regarding indiscriminate sale of property inside of Festac town. We have with us the convener, Take Back Festac, Amo Duffy, Valentine Uduebo. He has been with us for the past couple of minutes, and we've been discussing very in-depth about the matters that residents in Festac seem to be facing regarding these sales and how it affects the total well-being of the estate. Now, you talked about Festac being a model estate, not just for Africa, but for the rest of the world. And we see these issues now, and I'm wondering exactly what authorities are in place that can help stop these. As an association, a residents association, you've done your bit, you brought it to the relevant authorities. What are they doing so far to try and see that this does not continue?
Yeah, you see, I want to say it very clearly. I'd rather die on my feet, standing, than to live on my knees. I have children that must take after me, if not better. I don't think they are listening. Because if they were, who would have the authority the audacity to tell someone to go and remove the FTRA banner and continue building, which means nothing will happen. And this is where they get it wrong. This is where they get it wrong. We have a president in this country, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and he's going to look into it, and he's going to ensure the persons who bought and who is selling be brought to book. If it includes both the Indian, then they should be brought to book. That place is not meant to be sold. Why we are doing this is because we are parents. We don't want a breakdown of law and order in that Festac community. We don't want it. We have been trying to curb, to calm our youth down that, look, we will get it to be settled. This is the time Mr. President will tell the whole world that, look, he's a Democrat and he's also with the law. There is law in the land. We cannot just wake up as anybody and start selling. Whether you are being given funds by the president or not, your priority is not to come and sell, not to come and make life miserable for us. Now, before it was a municipal, before the local government came in. Now that's why the local government now. It's a tripartite administration running there. We have the federal government in Festac, which is FHA. We have the state government in Festac, which is the governor. Now we have the local government, which is Prince Sanusi. The local government has authority, also have a significant power to look into this issue and ensure it is stopped. I had told him not once or twice that this is what is going on, and he had promised to look into it. But nothing has been done as I speak now. So we are coming as group, we are coming as not just residents, not as concerned residents, as property owners, as persons that we witnessed Festac from 1977. We are appealing to Mr. President. Please, Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I'd had one or two goings with him when he was in Lagos as a governor. He's a man that does not tolerate extortion. And he's a man who wants to protect his name. This is the challenge before you, sir. Mr. President, you need to visit Festac. Festac 50 is just around the corner by next year. What are we going to celebrate? A Festac sold to any other person.
Valentine, let's do a bit of stats here. Festac has 7 avenues.
Yes.
Each of these 7 avenues, let's say 4 of them have a total of about 36 closes. If I'm not mistaken, I'm talking about 1st, 3rd, 5th, and 7th Avenue.
Yeah.
And I'm only using these as sample. Each of these closes share one park, used to share a park from before. So let's say about 18 of these on each of these avenues. And for most of these parks have been sold. They've been sold through the years. Past 20 years, they've all been sold to private individuals or maybe even companies. And I'm wondering if after 20 years of these sales going on, what hope do you have as a residents association now to stop the menace that's been happening? Because it doesn't look likely. It doesn't look like anybody's listening. And it's very unfortunate because I am also a Festac resident and I was born there actually. So it pains me to see. And my question is rather personal. How exactly can we stop this?
First things first, Masino. You see, Mr. Fallacy that says Peter is a bad boy doesn't mean everybody that is Peter is a bad boy. That they have been selling property does not mean the docility will continue. We are awake to our responsibility as parents and as property owners. We will get to that issue. On the one you said, to tell you the beauty of Festac, you're taking me back to the beauty of Festac. When we Festac, that period you are saying, that end, every end of close has a park. That park is not just a park. It's there's an equipment there. A standby generator is there. That is where the light comes from. When you take light in Festac, when there's no light in Festac, generator will trigger. I witnessed it. There was nobody had that personal generator. In Festac, once you take light, it triggers off. But later, started hearing people selling the end of, and we call it end of close park. End of close, started selling it. It's also a thoroughfare. People started selling it. They've sold almost virtually all.
So what hope?
So the hope we have is very simple. I want to believe that it takes one to speak. We have started speaking. I also want to believe there is law in Nigeria. Let us leave all this one. They say go to court. Leave all this ones. There is law in Nigeria. When Maza, they were building skyscrapers everywhere. Maza, when Rajataki came, he said, bring down the gather lawfully. Maza is open today. Life has been saved, but it took them 20 more years. I am very optimistic with Mr. Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the president. He gives the order. Return Festac back to where it was. We are hopeful that the president will listen. And I can assure you 100% that he will listen and he will act on it. I am confident that, look, with the synergy going on now with Take Back Festac and FTRA, Festac will soon get to where it is. And that 50th birthday, we will celebrate it by the Secretary of God, not in ruins, not in disarray, but as a united resident and as a united people agitating for what? Simple sanity.
You are right, Valentine. It is going to be 50 years soon.
Yes.
Festac 77 after all. So in 2027, we'll be celebrating 50 years of what used to be a mega piece of infrastructure in Nigeria. We hope that by then that the ears that you're speaking to are open and that they've heard and that they've tried to put a stop to the menace that we're experiencing today in such a beautiful, once beautiful place. Well, thank you very much, Valentine, for joining us this morning and having this very, very necessary.
Let me also remind you,
real quick.
Let me also remind you, you're also aware that on this struggle, FHA has petitioned me to the police. They served me petition letter to come on Monday, petition letter to come on Tuesday, because of the crisis. I will honor the petition. I will go and tell them the truth must be.
The truth must be.
Yes.
Thank you again, Valentine.
Thank you.
Thank you. And do keep listening and watching because we still have more conversation coming your way right here inside of Breakfast Extra on News Central. And you're welcome. It's time for Queen's favorite part of the show. It's time for the strips. Yay, Queen. Queen? Where's Queen? There you are. All right, Queen, let's do the strips together. Every single week, we put together a collection of newspaper editorial cartoons that, well, kind of like depict what it is our daily realities are, and we get to talk about them. And today's dais is no less interesting than it has always been. Got very interesting ones for you today, but first we're going to be starting not with this one, guys, the seesaw. Let's go to the seesaw. So we had a couple put together here, and the compilations, well, they'll kill you. We have the bandits versus the man in power. I'm hoping that our producers can get to that one real quick because that's the one I want to start with because there is a sequence to this. But Queen, you also helped me so we can analyze these as we go.
Always.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Now, I was hoping that we're going to start with the bandit and the man in power. Thank you very much. That's the one, guys. That's what I've been asking for. So let's talk about the seesaw. APC government versus the bandit. Now, this is a very perfectly balanced kind of picture. And what we can see here is a very interesting depiction of what life is. Now, you see power on one side and, of course, terror on the other side of a bandit here. A figure representing government and power sits on one side of the seesaw. And, of course, the chair bears the APC logo on top of that flag there. The figure points a gun at the bandit sitting on the other side. And despite weapons and the apparent advantage of state power, what you see here is that the seesaw remains perfectly balanced. And the interpretation is very simple here, Queen. The cartoon is challenging the government's claims of progress against insecurity. Traditionally, the state is supposed to have overwhelming advantage But here we see that whether they like it or not, criminality still reigns and it's balanced. It's also a question whether they benefit from that balance, because, yeah, if you take out the bandit, then it's going to topple over. And if so it kind of like seems like there's something mutual here going on. I don't know if you agree with me on this one, Queen.
Mazino, you just said something that if you take out the bandit, then it feels like the government will not be balanced. So because, give or take, it's like, why can't you take them out? Why are you calling them brothers? Why are you calling them bandits? They're terrorists. Call them what they are. But it feels like, oh, they are family. Let's take it easy. There should be a balance, but it's not balancing. It's not making sense. It's giving bull.
Exactly. How many days since the Oyo kidnaps?
36.
36. It still worries me that we're still calling it kidnaps, because it's not kidnap at this point. It's terrorism. We just don't want to call it that.
Yeah.
But there's something there's something fishy here, and of course it would seem that there is a balance. Indeed, there is a balance. With all the resources that you have as the state or as Nigeria, why does it still seem like these guys still have the ability to decide how Nigerians actually live? In fear lately. But don't worry, let's move on. We've got more. Now, let's talk about the ADC crash. There is this very interesting picture here, ADC, where a bus waiting nearby. What we see here, a car labeled ADC has crashed into a tree, and a political figure looks out from the damaged vehicle, and another one is outside, and that one says, "Hey, do you need help, sir? Our bus is available." Now, the bus belongs to another party labeled XYZ, of course, but here's the interpretation. The cartoon seems to be mocking internal troubles within the African Democratic Congress, which seemed to be the one place everybody was coming for coalition before. And the crash car symbolizes political setbacks, crisis, defections, and lately, of course, the deregistration, non-deregistration wahala that they've been having. And the bus represents rival parties offering alternative political home. And of course, Nigerian politics. Politicians will frequently switch parties when fortune is declining. And this bus here is just suggesting that there is political opportunity here, or if you want to come. And the message is very, very clear. The cartoon is simply questioning the ADC's ability to sustain itself as a viable opposition platform itself. I mean, it's just that rather than building resilience after setbacks, some political parties and politicians will simply just abandon it and then just jump into XYZ party and wait and see what happens. Even if we have a stay on order regarding the deregistration, you will soon start seeing people from the ADC. Speculation. What do you think?
God is good, and he will do what he says he will do.
God is good, Motors.
It's so funny while, the ADC is clashing into court. Over the past few weeks and over the past few months, we've seen our constitution being looked at with a lot of gray lenses. It's like, oh, let me interpret it this way. You see a lower court, dishonoring a higher court rule. We've seen conversations, we've seen suits flying here and there. How do you try to deregister a party? It's been 3 years since one election. Why now? Different questions coming up. Oh, let's wake up. We need to open another party. These people don't know what they're doing. And then you get here, it's like, oh no, I need to go. You don't go. I go. You go. Then you move again. It's a circus. I don't know what is happening to Nigeria. It's like we've moved from the focus, which is governing the people in the country, into, what
was that thing they say again when you're coming into Lagos? Maybe we should apply it to Nigeria. This is Nigeria.
Lagos.
Let's move on to our next one here. It has Akpabio in it, by the way. It's been a while since we've seen Akpabio inside of the strips. What can we see? Political figure resembling Senate President Godswill Akpabio, wearing the APC insignia. Of course, you can see that on his hat. And he says, on security, the opposition is adopting our 2015 templates. Now, them Tokamo, not me. However, I've got an interpretation. Very ironic. It's deeply ironic. In 2015, the APC, they successfully used insecurity under President Goodluck Jonathan as a major campaign issue. Now, Boko Haram attacks were very, rampant there. The concerns about national security, that was talking point for every politician. Today, opposition parties are criticizing the APC government using many of the same arguments the APC also deployed against the PDP in 2015. I don't know if you can see that. And the message here is that political history is repeating itself. Akpabio's statement is effectively an admission that the opposition is now using APC's own playbook against them. And of course, hey, what APC once described as legitimate criticism is now being directed at APC itself. What more can you say here, Queen? Do you have any additions to it? It's a very simple picture, simple air bubble, simple quote. What do you think?
No comment.
No comment?
Not one.
No comment?
It is well, is all I have to say.
No comment. It took me a while to know that was supposed to depict Akpabio.
Really?
Until I saw Senate President there.
No, I could tell.
No, it's
I can tell.
Not rounded
You know,
enough.
people from my side of the country, we have the same head shape, I can tell.
Is that vein running from across your... Let's move on to our fourth cartoon. I'm sorry, I had to, you made it possible. Clothes drying outside in the open, northern power outage. What's happening in northern cities? Well, this is supposed to be natural, clothes drying outside, but the caption here is referencing power outages in plenty northern Nigerian states, which seems to be becoming a very ordinary thing. It's implying that it's a very subtle irony. Drying clothes outside is adaptation. Since electricity is unavailable, people will revert back to traditional methods and say, oh, hey, life continues. But the humor comes from presenting a serious infrastructural problem or failure as though it was just an ordinary domestic adjustment. And that's the context here. It's real. It's referencing prolonged electricity disruptions that people have effectively just simply taken as normal. And that's the problem. I'm going to step away from this illustration. And something you and I are guilty for, Queen. The past 1 week, how much of the Oyo abductions did you speak about?
Well, off camera, few, on camera, 4 days.
Very limited, not like what it used to be. And that's the Nigerian problem. We simply adapt a bit too easily. Do you remember my monologue from last week, or was it 2 weeks ago? I said the very same thing. Something else is going to happen and we'll forget all about it. And it's happening and it pains me and I don't want it to go. They're still in captivity. We're not hearing much about it. The past 1 week, we spoke more about elections happening in Ekiti, in Enugu, in every other part. But these kids are still there. We're hearing less and less and less about it because Nigerians simply just adapt to whatever is happening currently. And it's very unfortunate. Very unfortunate. Oh, it's going on 40 days now. 40 days and 40 nights. It worries me.
Well, I wouldn't say Nigeria is just adapting. It's like, will I say the things are happening more like a competition? Oh, this is
competing for attention.
Yeah, competing for attention.
But these are lives. These are kids. These are children who are out in the open.
That's why we have the government in place to deal with the things that we, as citizens sitting back here, cannot deal with.
You want us to go there now?
If they're not able to do it, then Nigerians, wake up, please.
It's sad. Final cartoon for the day. It's a father-daughter one. Yes, I love Bulama. Daily Trust, always a kicker.
Yes, you do love him.
I like that. Now, the daughter says to father, Dad, insecurity seems to be getting worse in the country. Father says to the daughter, no, my dear, insecurity simply crossed the regional border. Interpretation, well, perhaps the most politically loaded cartoon of the day, yes. For years, insecurity was often discussed as a predominantly northern kind of problem. Whether it was terrorism, banditry, mass kidnapping, Boko Haram, it was northern. Now, the father's response here suggests that that insecurity has not necessarily worsened. It's just simply crossed the border. It's spread geographically into the south. So the cartoon's attacking regional perceptions of national problems. When violence was concentrated in certain regions, some Nigerians viewed it as, it's not our own, it's very distant. Now, it don't reach house. Violent crimes, armed attacks, kidnappings, banditry, and all of that is spreading into the south, and perceptions have changed all of a sudden. The father here is essentially saying the problem didn't suddenly become serious, it became everybody's problem. Broader significance, the cartoon critiques selective empathy. We're all guilty. Like it or not, Queen, we're all guilty. Because even the media only started talking much about it after it crossed into the south. Before that, like I said from before, we adapted. Now it's our current everyday kitchen table conversation between father and daughter. Bulama is so intelligent. I love the way he makes these things come to life. He's still flying the Palestinian flag, by the way. Yeah. What do you think?
Well, the world has a ripple effect. When there is sun in Lagos, it's also sunny somewhere else. And when it's night somewhere else. So don't ever think for a moment, because it's happening in another street, another country. See what happened to your economy when Strait of Hormuz closed down. It happened in the north. You were thinking, oh, it's just the tomato that is coming from there. Now it's close to you. The same way flood happened in Lekki is also happening on the mainland
You know, go reach Festa. You know, go reach Festa.
Oh, Festa is losing their parks. But you see that at the end of the day, it's a ripple effect. It's a domino push. Something is happening somewhere. Don't think for a moment that it will not get to your doorstep. You have to talk, you have to speak up, and you have to be prepared. So Nigerians, again, I hope you're ready for 2027 election. With that, I say goodbye from the strips.
Not without telling them that if you missed the reference on Festac and Lekki, then you should get back on YouTube and see our previous conversations from today that were very interesting.
Or DSTV, if you're still paying.
On DSTV, definitely they are. So we're 422 on there. Thank you very much for joining us for the strips. Thank you very much for helping me out, Queen. And as I say on social media, I don't go. I'm coming back.
They come.
And you're welcome back again. It's time for Focus Africa. Now today we turn now to the G7 summit, where leaders of some of the world's most powerful economies met to discuss global security, economy, stability, climate action, and also shifting geopolitical tensions. Now, the summit brought together major industrialized nations to coordinate positions on issues that shape global trade, development aid, energy security, and also international diplomacy. Decisions taken at this level often have ripple effects that extends far beyond the member states and into Africa itself.
Now, this year's discussions have again highlighted divisions on global priorities, even as leaders attempt to present a united front on issues such as conflict resolution, economic uncertainty, and global supply chain stability. But while the G7 is primarily made up of advanced economies, its decisions often carry significant consequences for developing regions, including Africa. From trade partnerships and investment flows to climate financing and security cooperation, outcomes from the summit can directly influence policy direction and economic opportunities across the continent. Now let's see this package by our international correspondent, Afia Hagen. Let's have a look.
The G7 summit here in Evian, Lebanon, has been dominated by three major issues: the war in Ukraine, efforts to secure lasting peace in the Middle East, and the challenge of financing growth and development in emerging economies. World leaders gathered against a backdrop of continuing geopolitical uncertainty, with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky joining talks as leaders sought to maintain pressure on Russia and discuss the next steps towards peace. While trade and economic growth remain important themes at every G7, this year's summit has been overshadowed by global security concerns. Ukraine and the Middle East have dominated discussions, with leaders attempting to demonstrate a united front at a time of growing international instability. One of the most closely watched moments came as US President Donald Trump met Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. The pair discussed the ongoing conflict with Russia, military support for Kyiv, and possible pathways towards a negotiated settlement. Trump described the meeting as productive and reiterated calls for Russia to engage in meaningful, peaceful negotiations. Meanwhile, the Middle East remained high on the agenda. Leaders welcomed progress towards an Iran peace framework, with discussions focusing on regional stability, nuclear safeguards, and reopening critical trade routes in the Gulf. The issue has become one of the defining diplomatic challenges of this year's summit. Beyond the headlines surrounding Ukraine and Iran, leaders have also been focusing on the global economy. A key working session brought together representatives from the World Bank and the African Development Bank, with discussions centered on debt, investment, and how to unlock greater economic growth across Africa and other developing regions. That session highlighted growing calls for reform of international financial institutions and increased support for infrastructure, climate resilience and private sector investment. Leaders stressed that long-term global stability depends not only on resolving conflicts, but also on addressing economic inequalities and development challenges.
Africa is the growth engine of the future, even today, and also Africa is the wealthiest continent. So China wants in on that growth. So G7 is now figuring where we need to catch up. So let's do a summit to figure out how we want to renew those partnerships. And our message to them is you need to up your offer, especially to Africa. If you want to make back lost ground, then you need to up your offer.
As the summit draws to a close, leaders will be hoping the commitments made here translate into meaningful action. But with wars continuing, fragile peace efforts underway, and economic pressures mounting worldwide, the real test will be what happens once the cameras leave Evian. For News Central, I'm Afia Hagen at the G7 Summit.
Now taking a closer look at the key outcomes of the summit, what could they mean for Africa's place in the global order? Joining us to discuss this are Adeni Ikunu, who's a public affairs analyst, and Oluseun Ojo, bookseller, who's a global strategy and management consultant. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us this morning. Mr. Kunu, my first question to you would be, we see that G7 summit happens every year and they talk about, global issues and all. How significant is it this year? And do you think that whatever was discussed will be translated within the next year before their next meeting?
I told you that the G7 meeting is a consolidation of the timetable of the entire West for the rest of the world. And that is one thing that those who care to listen should be aware of, that you don't talk about a G7 meeting oftentimes from the angle of wanting to help other areas to develop. Don't forget, if you check the G7, certain network hold them together, beginning with the connection of financial institutions across the world. And of course, you'd agree, most of the members of the G7 were those who colonized the world, those who actually dealt with the African Charter that resulted in the emancipation of people from slavery, and those who perhaps write the template of the modus operandi of the rest of the world. So for people who look at the G7 as just, okay, they meet together so that they can benefit people, it is first about their interest or nothing else. And that is why Africa, within the context of this conversation, must begin to look at how it has to begin to negotiate its own future by not actually waiting for certain other groups to determine it, especially in terms of financials. Don't also forget that the G7 are also those who control the Bretton Woods institution. So whenever we are talking about the G7, it is important to look at it from the consciousness of those who believe that they cannot sleep upon the awakening of many other countries and those who perhaps have come to an understanding of the fact that certain things happening about their destiny in this world should be controlled by them. If you look at a country like Germany, you'd ask yourself, why Germany? Germany is a world power because it took the world to the Second World War, and it took the Allied force to ensure that Germany actually was submitted. So the presence of Germany amongst them is not because those that are part of the G7 so very well love Germany. It is because you can't do nothing much about the force and the impact of the world without Germany, because there's a consciousness that the rest of them has. If you look at the US, for instance, and the United Kingdom, no other country of the world actually held onto slaves, colonized people, and are still the one writing the order and the ideals of subjugation than the US and, of course, the UK. That stands. If you look at Canada, Canada is a pivotal holder of certain things among them. Then if you come to a place like Japan, Japan is non-speaking English, but Japan is a great country by all standards. Remember the Pearl Harbor attack, also associated with the Second World War. If you look at France, you remember the D-Day issue. So you find out that most of the countries that you find within the circle of what? The G7 are those who, if you check from the Second World War to the impact after the Second World War. In fact, let me tell those who care to listen that the modern era is always defined by the actions of the 7 people that are associated with the G7. So let's understand, it's about economy, it's about power, consolidation of weaponry and ammunition, and of course, an order. Then there's another thing that oftentimes people don't understand. Most of these people, sooner than later, they will be the ones attending the meeting called the one that is headed by Karl Schwab, that's in Davos in Switzerland, where they actually put all of the dots and all of the crossings to the template that they expect everybody to follow. Do not also forget is the fact that the Rothschild, the owner of the banks, that practically everybody is kept under, are also part of this. So basically, it has an impression of the fact that these are people who want to do the best for the world, one way or the other, maybe 5–10%, but essentially it is to protect themselves and to ensure that every other country falls in place. Ask me the question and let me tell you, why is it that China is not part of the G7? Why is it that you don't have a South Korea there? You only need to understand the position and what these particular countries intend before it is. So let's understand, this is a meeting to actually review what they agreed upon at the last meeting in a bid to ensure that if any of the country has not achieved what must be achieved, they go back having reviewed to say, fall in line. Don't also forget that in recent times, France has been falling behind with regard to the agenda of the G7. Because if France falls behind, definitely you'd have to look at what has happened in the west of Africa, and how a number of those countries have rebelled against France. So you must also understand that at some point in history, this same Japan that is part of the G7 dominated China, dealt brutally with China, and there's a history between them. If you look at Italy, Italy as one had Benito Mussolini, a big player at some point in history in an allied situation with Adolf Hitler. So you must understand the history of the birth and the evolution of the G7, and you cannot afford to be a lay person when we talk about the reason they meet and consolidate.
All right,
That's
Mr.
why I
Kunu.
open on this conversation.
All right, just a second, Mr. Kunu. Gentlemen, let's also remember to keep our comments summary so that we can get a lot of this in, because we only have very limited time. Bookseller, let me come to you. I want to talk about something that Mr. Kunu just spoke about, and that's China, the China factor. The G7 adopted a critical minerals plan, and this was to stop dependency on China itself. And where else would they look to? It will be to Africa. And I'm wondering exactly where Africa stands here. While the G7 will tout itself to be for global stability, for all these other things, it also has its own interests that it has to fulfill. And this is where Africa plays in. So I'm wondering, how does Africa negotiate to its own advantage at this point? Even if we were absent at the summit, how can it play with the adoptions of the G7 summit to its advantage?
Thank you very much for having me, and thank you, Mr. Kunu, for your in-depth explanation about some things that we are not even supposed to touch when it comes to G7. But one thing I want you to keep in mind is that when it comes to international relations like this, when it comes to global affairs, global politics like this, the philosopher will tell you there are two ways that you can see. One is to see with your eyes, and the second one is for you to see with your mind. When it comes to international relations, you see with your your mind that most of the things that are being discussed in G7 does not have anything to do with Africa prosperity. If you want to travel back in time and actually see what actually brought these 7 nations together, there was an economy boom, like a global economy boom post-World War. And Mr. Kuno actually mentioned that's the reason why Germany cannot be, left behind when this discussion is being taking place. So there was an economy boom after the World War II, which spanned from 1940 to 1973. So what actually stopped that economy boom was the Yom Kippur War. Yom Kippur War started in 1973, and the Yom Kippur War that started in 1973 was Arab-Israeli War, where there was a pullout of Arab oil-producing nations, which includes 6 of them: Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iraq, Libya, UAE, and Qatar. So they formed something that they call OAPEC, which is an Organization of Arab Petroleum Exporting Company. They stopped exporting oil. They stopped selling oil, both to the United States and all those countries that are in G7 today. They stopped selling oil to them. So to tackle the problem of that oil scarcity, that was what brought them together in 1975. That they said, let West Germany, Italy, Japan, United Kingdom, United States, and France should come together and let us discuss what is going to be the way forward and what is going to be the solution to the oil scarcity. So they came together, and in 1976, they asked Canada to join them, turning them to G7. In 1998, Russia became a member of OPEC, and they cannot do without Russia because most of the oil that is being exported to some of this country was also being exported by Russia. So in 1998, it became a G8. And then when Russia find out what they were trying to do, because they really don't want Russia there, but because of the interest and the hidden agenda of United States wanting to get the oil from Russia, in 2014, Russia pulled out. So when it comes to G7, to be honest with you, if you want to see with your mind, it has nothing to do with Africa. The only reason why Egypt is being invited as an observer is because they were the one that actually spearheaded the Arab-Israeli war during the Yom Kippur. So looking at the sequence of things, how the thing is going on now, nothing about Africa was mentioned during this discussion. Matter of fact, 9 things were adopted. Out of the 19 that was adopted, nothing has to do with Africa. The only 2 countries that they mentioned was Iran and Ukraine. And what they said about Ukraine is that they swore an allegiance for Ukraine to actually intensify their defense, their security, and to, like Mr. Kuno talked about weaponization as well, that they're going to supply more weapons for Ukraine in order for them to continue to fight and ensure that they win the war against Russia. And they've been talking about negotiation. There's not going to be a negotiation because Vladimir Putin is not ready to come to the table with anybody. Every negotiation that has done in the past, up to 4 of them, starting from Clinton, Barack Obama, has failed. So this thing has nothing to do with Africa. Africa is at the back burner. Ruto was there. That's the president of Kenya, was also invited to be there. And the reason why they invited him was because for a few years now, like 3 to 4 years, there has been a cordial romance between France and the Republic of Kenya, and it has to do with mineral exchange. They have been selling their minerals, so some of their minerals, to France at a very, very cheap rate. So that cordial relation is between France and Kenya. That's the reason why Kenya was present there. So to sum it up, I can't hear you right now, but to sum it up, this thing has nothing to do with Africa prosperity when it comes to economic growth and development at the moment.
Mr. Ojo, once again, I please beg that you be summary with your comments, because we have a lot of questions I would like to ask, very short time. So we're really trying hard here to shoehorn everything in. Now, the reason why I raised up Africa and the advantage that we might have is because with this, interpretation where China is being left out, they have to turn to Africa when it comes to minerals. There's the Democratic Republic of Congo and cobalt. There's Zimbabwe. There's South Africa. There's many minerals that are housed in Africa. How can Africa negotiate to its advantage so it's not left out like we were during the oil boom era? Summarily, please, Mr. Ojo Buksela.
You cannot, if you are going to come to my father's land and tell me that you want to trade on my father's land. You need a portion of my father's land to farm on it, and you want that thing to happen, and you are not bringing me to table to discuss anything about that. It is very impossible for me to say that this is what I want to offer. Like I said again, Africa at the moment has nothing to do with what is going on in G7. It's about oil and gas. The oil and gas prices are such so much that currently right now in the US, we are buying a gallon for $6. There's no negotiation that we can do at the moment right now. If anybody is telling you that we have a negotiation, most of the framework, the international framework, the policy and the things that has been developed and adopted in this place has nothing to do with Africa. Africa wasn't mentioned. So if we are going to be in any key player or any road player or anything or stakeholder in matters of minerals and export or all these things, our chances are very limited, to be honest with you. They see us as, I don't know what I can call it, they see us, we don't matter. That's why we are not being brought to the table to discuss anything that has to do with them. We don't matter. They know they can easily come to Africa and buy whatever they want to buy, sign a bilateral agreement with them, sign a bilateral agreement that they don't even fulfill most of the key points that are in there. So again, I'm emphasizing to you again, except we want to sit down here and deceive ourselves. The chances for Africa to be able to negotiate anything when it comes to international growth and development in this key area is very limited and narrow.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Ojo.
you.
Well, Mr. Kuno, I think now the question is Strait of Hormuz is, supposedly to be open because President Donald Trump has signed a deal with Iran. Would you say this is good for Nigeria oil or is bad now?
Well, let's understand that we have not maximized the capacity we have as a country that is all producing to be able to take advantage of, for instance, wartime situation and many other vagaries of human existence. And that is where the conversation has to go, which is key. For every country of the world, each time there's a war, the country profits because the dynamics of war results in profit for those that have been able to manage their oil industry well. Nigeria, for as long as forever, has been hovering between 1,800 to 2,000 barrels a day, which in itself is a lie. And for those of us that are critical stakeholders, and those of us that are keen observers, and those of us that are within the research circle, we know that there's a lot of fraud within the NNPCL, as they call it right now. There's no transparency, because even when we have the entire refinery not functioning, they still tell you we're producing 1.8 million barrels to 2 million barrels per day. It's a ridiculous thing, and I do not know why a whole nation will go to sleep and remain unintelligent with that kind of lie. So the optimum production level, we have 1.8 million barrels to 2 million barrels per day. When the refineries are down, we have 1.8 to 2 million barrels per day, and everybody eats that up. Let us understand that the reason Iran remains a key part of this conversation is that Iran is the country with the second largest energy reserve in the world after, after Venezuela. Venezuela was captured because it doesn't understand its history, it doesn't understand what it means to be the world with the largest energy reserve, and how to ensure that at the level of holding on to power, you actually ensure that the stability that prevents you from being a piece of meat for the world, which it has failed to do. As of the time that Venezuela was still a country with Nicolas Maduro, while its citizens were hungry and actually despondent, it was spending, hundreds of thousands of dollars in Turkish special restaurants. So that's a leader that got what it serves. Now, if you look at Iran, for instance, because it's important to look at the global dynamics here, only 2 weeks, and I'm going to say this for the world to listen, the United States of America has expended about 1,200 interceptors, military interceptors, with regard to the war that has been going on, that went on between Iran, the U.S., and of course Israel. And the U.S. needed rare earth materials that can only be found in China, a kilogram of which is about 4,000 plus for a kilogram of that in dollars. There are two key rare earth materials that are needed to manufacture weaponry, especially drone interceptors and all of that. And those rare earth materials are in abundance in China. Now, the Chinese government, because it's important for me to say this, to understand the Iran conversation. Now, China has been depending on Iranian energy for quite some time now. First of all, it has wanted access to Venezuelans. And up until the time there was problem, 92% of the energy coming from Iran because of the sanction was being purchased by China. Now, the war and what has happened afterwards is not allowing the U.S. and many other key countries of the West to have access to that rare earth material that's actually found in China. And that's why you look at a country like India, that's located also in Asia, as well as China. You're looking at a country like Kenya in East Africa that has certain level of abundance of certain rare earth materials and the leading economy in East Africa. So their invitation to that meeting is, first of all, how can we leverage the rare earth materials of this country so that the deal we're trying to resolve with Iran, we still have access to energy, then we use sanction and paperwork to keep China from having access. So what China has done in recent time, China only 2 weeks ago approved for 3 Chinese companies to be the only exporters of those rare earth materials. It has not given the U.S. access as it used to before to be able to buy those rare earth materials, as well as a number of companies in the United Kingdom. So these G7 members are hurting at the moment, and that is why the focus is also on rare earth materials, in which you have India and Kenya and other countries, and you also have, in this question, the issue of wanting to align and ensure that Iran at least, okay, since we're not able to eventually conquer you people, let's work together one way or the other. And that is the motivation for the deal that is on ground now. And so I'm saying here, for those who care to understand, that the conversation and the global dynamics of the G7 meeting is primarily and always for themselves. But please, you permit me say this before my friend talks also.
Real quick.
That for Africa, if you look at the aspect of AI that we're talking about, it is time for Africa to understand that the next gold mine is actually data. And until African leaders understand how we can create that aspect of our content for, excuse me, what people don't understand is that
Mr. Kunu, we've run out of time.
Okay, let me stop. All right,
yes.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. But you do make very important point there when you're talking about AI and the fact that to develop all of this, there are certain minerals that are needed, and Africa is the one place that they're turning to now, since they can no longer get that from China. We also saw this when it came to, well, oil. Nigeria exported raw materials but didn't get much local value. And I'm wondering what lessons African countries can take from this now that we see that our minerals are in high demand again. What can they learn from that flight of raw materials outside of the country without it adding much local value to the countries they're coming from? I'd like Mr. Ojo to please go ahead with this.
Okay.
Can you see your question one more time?
I was asking what African countries have to learn from noting that over the years they have been exploited when it comes to their minerals. Seeing that Africa has now come back into the eye of the international community as a place for these resources, what have we learned from before that we should take note of now that they're coming to us with these adoptions from the G7 summit?
There is, like I said again, and I will still emphasize, African chances are very limited. When they sit down in G7, when they sit down in United Nations Council, they are going to World Bank in Thailand in October right now. They're taking the meeting away from DC. We were in DC earlier this year, April, in World Bank, and most of the things that were discussed about Africa is about job creation. They were focusing on agriculture. And they're not saying anything about most of these solid minerals because they know those things over the years has not in any way helped Africa to develop. Most of the leaders that we have in Africa are the ones that are the problem of this thing. And when these people sit down, like Mr. Kuno told you, when these people sit down, they shy away from discussing the truth because they know that Africa is a milk cow for them. And all they do for that milk cow is to make it. They will make sure that when they make those laws, those frameworks, and those international policies, when it comes to the exports and immigration of those minerals, they ensure that Africa is put in a chokehold in such a way that they determine the price over there in Washington, D.C. They determine what's over the mode of export over there, amount of how they're going to buy per kilogram of either gold or this or that, per barrel, what's it called? Dollar per barrel in a day. Everything is being discussed over there in Washington, D.C. And they will do it in such a way that they will give that money to Africa and it will not benefit them for good. Now, the reason why they are coming together for this G7 again, and like Mr. Kuno told you, the truth is that they are concerned about the Strait of Hormuz. If the Strait of Hormuz is not open, the prices of oil for most of these nations, which is an ally in OPEC, that buy from that place, will continue to go up, and it will spell a lot of problem with them. Manufacturing will be hot. Most of this in operational thing, everything will be in a chokehold. So, like I'm saying, Africa will have a limited chance. When somebody is making law for you, when somebody is making determining how you are going to, buy what you are producing, there's nothing you can do. The minerals that we're talking about is depleting. Nigeria doesn't have oil again. When we're talking about oil producing company, before they're going to tell you Nigeria is number 6, we are not even in first 10 again. So we really don't have what we want to bring to table when it comes to negotiation. The only thing that they are talking about in Africa now, last World Bank meeting in April, is agriculture and the surge of AI. How can AI create jobs for Africa? Because they believe that the 67% employment rate in Africa is killing them. Most of the World Bank projects are failing because of this unemployment rate. So they are thinking that what can we do? That's at the World Bank. And if you look at the 9 things that were adopted in this G7 meeting last week, number 6 of it is AI policy. How do we use AI policy to develop Africa? In Africa right now, we actually have a good data center. But I'm not sure Nigeria has a good data center. Right. If you mention any country right now in Africa, I'm not sure they have a good data center. So how do AI want to benefit us?
Well,
this is where we are right now.
This conversation trickles down to so many things, but we're out of time. Mr. Denny Kunu, thank you so much for waking up so early and joining us to have this conversation. Of course, Oluseun Ojo, bookseller, it is a pleasure to have both of you join us for this conversation. Of course, G7 is not over. We'll still have other conversations, and we'll back on the both of you to have that conversation. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, let's go on a short break. When we return, we have our last conversation inside of Breakfast Extra Sunday edition. Yay! Now, let's cross over to a UK court that has discharged former Nigerian Petroleum Minister Diezani Alison-Madueke of bribery-related charges, a development that is already generating wide reactions both within and outside Nigeria. The case, which had drawn significant international attention over several years, was closely tied to broader allegations of corruption linked to her time in public office. With the latest ruling, attention has now shifted to what the verdict means for ongoing anti-corruption efforts and cross-border prosecution of financial crimes. In Nigeria, this development has reopened conversations around asset recovery, legal cooperation between countries, and the overall strength of institutional processes in handling high-profile corruption cases. Some observers view the verdict as a legal closure in one jurisdiction. Others say it raises broader questions about evidence standards, investigative processes, and international legal coordination.
Now joining us to have this conversation is Towo Useruwoja. I beg your pardon, he's the public affairs analyst. Towo, it's good to see you here again. After it's been you're a regular on the show, so yes, you're practically the third host.
Good morning.
And whenever we need a legal mind, it's you we come to. So my auntie, Alison-Madueke has been acquitted. I have so many questions, whether acquittal means that there was no corruption committed at all, or what implication it has on Nigeria's fight against corruption. Well, let's start with the second one. With this acquittal of Alison-Madueke, what implication does it have on the Nigerian fight against corruption?
As you know, I could recall we've discussed this issue before,
yeah,
and earlier you never mentioned her as your auntie.
Now that she's free and might be coming back, I might as well just get related.
Identifying with people. Yeah, congratulations to her when it comes to issue of corruption. This particular trial in the UK, congratulations to her. But also be aware that the prosecuting team, they also have rights to appeal the verdict of the Crown Court. So let's look at the perception or the implication to Nigeria. As a matter of fact, you should know that Nigeria and UK, they operate different. They operate what we call. There's one thing that we should understand, that there is sovereignty when it comes to criminal trial. And when it comes to criminal trial is part of the legal structure that determines the sovereignty of every nation. So the verdict of the UK court regarding to the criminal trial of Diezani Alison-Madueke has no implication in Nigeria, has no legal implication in Nigeria. As a matter of fact, she can also be tried in Nigeria regarding this said offense that has been that she has been acquitted for. And I'll make it clear because you could see that the facts in this case tied to when she was a minister between 2010 and 2015 as a minister of petroleum in Nigeria. So some of the monies, some of the benefits, or some of the accrued alleged offense in question emanated from Nigeria while she was a public officer in Nigeria. So she can still be tried in this said offense, in this said fact. That is simple.
That's very interesting. Because if you say she can still be tried here, if there are evidences that are uncovered here, does it reopen the case back in the UK?
For one thing clear, let me make one thing clear. If you look at the procedures in the UK, is the jury system. The jury system is made up of which is practiced in common law, but Nigeria, who practice common law principle, does not adopt the jury trial. The jury trial is made up of, like in these circumstances, there are 12 members of the public who are not even skilled in law. They only look at the evidence at the surface of it, and emotions can also determine the verdict that can be given. But if you look at Nigeria is the judges system, where the judges, who is an expert, who is skilled in law, evaluate the evidence and also deliver judgment. One is verdict, while one is judgment. So that is for that. So if she's tried in Nigeria in this said offense, it does not reopen this case in the UK. The only thing the prosecuting team can do in the UK is to appeal the decision of to appeal the verdict upheld by the judge, the verdict given by the jury, upheld by the judge. And for the purpose of the public who may be a bit confused in when I said, okay, I know some people, even some lawyers, will argue of double jeopardy by virtue of Section 36, subsection 9 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But when you're talking about that, you also look at Section 6 of the Constitution of Nigeria. When they talked about court of competent jurisdiction, the Crown Court in the UK is not part of court of competent jurisdiction. Is not part of court of competent jurisdiction in Section 6 of our Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And also, we should also know that this fact in question is mixed and linked to Nigeria. Everything that has to do with her being prosecuted here in Nigeria, here in the UK, has to do with Nigeria, and is an alleged offense in Nigeria if proven in court of law.
Right. So, Towo, this situation has been going on for 11 years. And in the UK, yes, you know, the charge there was £100,000 and, you know, luxury lifestyle and luxury gift. Not anywhere near the amount that is being charged here in Nigeria. Now, with this verdict, do you think that she would come back to Nigeria?
The Nigerian government has a way of, if they want to do things, they have a way of doing things. You should understand that Nigeria and UK have a bilateral relationship when it comes to repatriation of criminals or of alleged people who are alleged to have committed an offense. Do you understand? Then two, we said it goes for 11 years. It is the investigating team. It is the investigating team, unlike the EFCC, the ICPC, and the police we have for crying out loud. Do you understand? They investigate today, they charge the person to court. While the person is in court for 15 years, they are still investigating amending charges. But in the UK, things are not done like that. The police, the National Crime Agency, they can take donkey years to investigate you. And if you look at the trial, the court processes, it's less than a year. So that is the process. They put their fact together, and as a matter of fact, from what I could read in the local newspaper here in the UK, they're also looking at it as a blow to the institution, because they look at the money they invested, the human resources they've invested. They're also looking at what they can possibly do to see that justice is attained. Then let's come back to Nigeria. Two, Nigeria can apply. I think Diezani should be a dual citizen, but Nigeria can apply through diplomatic means for her to be repatriated to Nigeria to answer for the said offense she has committed, including this one in question, because if this luxury life, this money they are talking about was as a result of her becoming minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that gave him that leverage to abuse our office, that can be tried. So it's about the EFCC, the police, or the ICPC, whoever agencies that are responsible for trying Alison-Madueke to also adopt that method. And also she can be tried in absentia. I know that can be done. Even they can make an application that she can be tried in absentia. And if she's tried and she's found wanting and everything accrued to that said offense can be confiscated and sent and returned to the public coffers.
Now, so the allegations, the witnesses, the assets, everything spans 11 years in multiple countries. And I have to ask whether there was cooperation in the investigation of this case between these countries, especially here in Nigeria and the UK, and how this would have implicated or impacted the eventual verdict itself. Do you think that Nigeria was active when it comes to cooperating with information?
Well, that is not within the public domain, and I am aware that if Nigeria government had cooperated with the Crown Court, or if the Crown Court feels that Nigeria, they need evidence from Nigeria to back their cases, I think maybe a personnel from the Economic and Financial Crime Commission, or a personnel from the ICPC, or a staff of the Ministry of Petroleum would have been one of the people take as evidence. And you should be aware that while the case is ongoing, we also, I think there was alleged information that the former president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which is the person of Goodluck Jonathan, wrote a letter to the court informing the court that he granted some of the alleged transaction as reimbursement thereabout. I think that is something that was alleged in the public domain. So one thing about the corporation is the agency prosecuting the matter. If the agency believe that the evidence they have can secure conviction, well, they need not rely on any external force. But if they believe that they said, they believe that, okay, they need there's a collaboration from other countries to secure conviction. That is also within the framework or the trial plan they've set out or wrote out in this regard. But I know as a matter of fact that within the province of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, any asset that has been declared as a proceed or forfeited as a proceed of illegal acts in Nigeria, or any country that has shared a bilateral relationship with Nigeria as to the fight against corruption, seizure of property, seizures of property, that this verdict cannot alter that ongoing proceedings.
Well, Towo, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you very much.
every time we call upon you to have this conversation. And of course, we'll see what happens next, if she will come back or Nigeria will take a bold step.
She better. I bought the Ashoebi.
As you know, is your sister. You'll be in a better position to know if she's coming back.
I'm selling the Ashoebi as it is.
Thank you so much, Towo, for joining.
Thank you, Towo. How many yards would you like?
No, I don't want to. Joe, please, I don't want to. We've come to the end of Breakfast Extra. It's been a long week indeed. Yesterday, 5 hours because of the elections and by-elections.
Who's complaining?
He's not complaining. I was. But anyway, it was good. It's work. And we're done today. Make sure you tune in from tomorrow through Friday to join the trio, Joe, Olive, and Benga. Just maybe we might throw Mazino there for a bit. But with that, we say au revoir.
Arrivederci. Bye-bye.
See you next weekend.
Today. Bye-bye.
Bye.